a warm welcome to this breakout session, where we will talk about joint Nordic action, which in my mind is the most interesting topic today. Hope you all agree. Today, we have heard a lot about common challenges. We have heard a lot about the need for taking more action. And yes, our common goal of halving food waste is ambitious. And yes, we need more action. I will start to thank the Nordic Council of Ministers for inviting Matvett to organize this breakout session. It's a great honor. My name is Anne-Grete Haugen. I'm the Managing Director at Matvett. I started in Matvett back in 2014. And actually before that, I worked at PepsiCo company for the Nordics. And at that time, I was battling winning market shares. But today, the fight is more against food waste. So I prefer the second one. Together with Anne-Marie at Matvett and Johan from Sams, we will take you through this breakout session. And actually, we have a goal of this session. And it's actually to bring something concrete forward, some valid points to the Nordic Council of Ministers. So for them to discuss the further way on how we in the Nordics should work closer together. So therefore, this breakout session will be divided into two. First, I will give you a brief overview of how we work in Norway. And then Johan from Sams will do the same for Sweden. And after that, the most important part will be that we have three companies with us today, which we will discuss some interesting questions with. So this is the second part. But first, briefly, I will tell you a little bit about Matvett and how we work in Norway. Matvett was founded back in 2012, and it's actually owned by the sector federations, associations, from the industry, retail, and hospitality sector. But we have heard a lot about financing today and the need for funds. So we are funded both by the sectors, but also we are supported by the authorities. And actually we have one aim, and this is to contribute to help the companies to actually succeed in halving the food waste by 2030. And we do so through insights and tools, and of course in close cooperation with the authorities, we also work to raise the consumer awareness about food waste. The latest number shows that in Norway, we throw away 400,000 tons edible food which should have been eaten by people. And this is equal to 47 kilo per habitant. And households stand for approximately 50%, whereas the value chain for food stands for the other 50%. And if we do include the primary sector and the seafood industry, the amount of food waste is actually higher. It's 450,000 tons. And as you see here, it's fresh bakery, fruit and vegetables, prepared meals, fresh meals, etc., which are the largest category. And expired shelf life is actually the main cause across the value chain. As we have heard today, food systems are complex, and the root causes are also divided and multiple. In Norway, food waste has declined with 10% the last 5 years. And however, the national sub-target goal of 15% was not reached. But I need to tell you that 5 out of 8 sectors actually reach the 15% target. But unluckily, households, public sector, and the food industry are behind. The negotiated agreement is a voluntary agreement, and this was signed by 5 ministries and 12 sector organizations back in 2017. And the nice thing with this agreement is actually that companies can join. They can join the agreement by signing a declaration of endorsement, where they actually commit themselves to report on their food waste numbers, the data, each year, but also to report on what kind of initiatives they have taken internally or externally. And what we see is that monitoring, we have heard that several times today, and reporting food waste is actually an action itself. It helps. And the joint companies, which you see here, in average, they have reduced food waste by 17% since 2015. Actually, recently, the Minister of Climate and Environment and the Ministry of Agriculture and Food has recently set up a committee who should assess actions and measures to ensure that Norway also meets the target, the 2030 target. And actually, this committee should also see how a food law should be included. But I need to underline that the negotiated agreement, which I just told you about, will continue to be central for reducing food waste in Norway. And the main task for the committee is to identify the most important barriers to prevent the reduction of food waste and include them as the basis for the assessment. And Matvett, we are honored. We are the secretary of the committee, and actually the final report should be completed by the end of this year. So we have no time to lose. There are many good examples, and actually today we have heard about the many good examples across the Nordics. And I just have some few with me here today. The first one is very interesting, because by consumer research, we do see that both packaging solutions, labeling, and also the date marking, the shelf life is actually the most important actions companies should take to help consumer to throw less food. And this insight is important, and we share it as much as we can with the companies. And I'm also happy to say that Matvett, we was actually the driving force, and Norway the first country to launch the best before, often good after, back in 2018. Other effective actions is the system for discount. For many years back, or 4 or 5 years back, maybe 1-2 shops practiced that. Today, all the retail chains have that in place, which is great. When it comes to the HoReCa sector, hotel, restaurant, canteens, etc., smaller plates, heard about that also today. But we also see that it's more common to communicate their own food waste. For example, an hotel. You can come in, you can see a sign. They tell you, yesterday we threw away 30 kilo of food waste. This is not good, so please help us to reduce the food waste. This was not actually accepted before. It's more and more accepted now. And actually the guests actually appreciate that this openness. New product innovations, we also heard about that today. One example in Norway is a brand called Mere Enn, which actually produce pizzas with those not ugly carrots, because this is not a good word to express the carrots, but carrots which is not have the right size or shape. So here you see a collage with many leading brands having the best before, often good after. And why do we present this and underline this action? Yes, because it's easy, it's simple, it's understandable, and we do believe this is a huge potential in the Nordics. And not only in the Nordics, but in the whole EU. Need to go a bit further. So, how to reach the 2030 goal? Yes, of course, we need to have focus on the biggest category with food waste, as mentioned before. We need more cooperation in the value chain. We need to use more technology innovation in order to make that happen. And I would like to just underline the QR code you see here. This will actually happen this year. Leading brands will actually have a QR code, and the unique thing with this QR code is actually that the shelf life will be included. So from the stores, the shop manager we heard about today, from searching for products close to expiry date manually, this could be happened automatically. But also nice thing towards the consumers is actually that you can communicate directly with the consumers. You can remind them that they have chicken in their fridge, which is about to expire the shelf life, and please put it on, make some dinner today with this product. Now, I will actually share some nice results out from a research project Matvett was a partner in, called Bread. From the Bread project, a 3-year project focused on responsible research innovation, we actually launched the 10 principles. And the 10 principles will be the background for the dialogue with the companies later on. So I will just show you the companies actually who stand behind the principles. This is not just a report saying that we should do so and so and so. This is actually those companies agree on the 10 principles. And of course, we don't have time to go through all the principles. I have just highlighted 4 of them, but it will not appear, but I can repeat. Today, we will talk more about the principles which point out a direction for how should we cooperate more in the value chain, how should we cooperate more with the authorities, how should we also include more the consumers as part of the solution. So this is the background for the conversation with the companies very, very soon. And I would just highlight that it's about our production. It's about our sales. It's about order forecast not meeting the real demand. And this is complex. It's not one solution who fits all. But with these principles, and we think this is a very good start. And personally, I really believe on the 10 principles as a nice and concrete input also to the Nordic Council of Ministers as a way forward, not only in Norway, but actually for the whole Nordics. So I think I will stop there and give the floor to Johan so that we have enough time for the conversation with the companies later on. So thank you so far.
Thank you very much. Is microphone 1 on? That's number 1. Do you hear me?
Try the other one.
Let's try microphone number 2. Well, nice to meet you, all you people, and hey to everyone online. My name is Johan. I work for the Swedish Voluntary Agreement for the Reduction of Food Waste, and I absolutely agree with these 10 principles. They were developed in Norway with plenty of partners. We were not involved, but we could easily stand behind them from a Swedish perspective as well. So who are SAMS? Well, we collect authorities, industry associations and companies from along the value chain, trying to reach the targets that you all know of by now. We were established in 2020, although we started discussing how should we try to collaborate years before that, because collaboration really takes time to build. So I will tell you about the first few years and the coming years for SAMS and perhaps for some joint Nordic action. And we're going to break it down to the Target Measure Act, which is a nice model to think about, and it's pretty common when you do projects on food waste reduction. Well, the first few years, so think 2020, 10 years left to make the Sustainable Development Goal. Yeah, that's an easy target for us. Everyone, the companies who signed up for SAMS signed up to do that. And we have really been busy getting the data. What is measured gets managed. That was our big call, and we really have been working on getting the definition out, trying to measure correctly out in the businesses, and understanding what food waste do we have in Sweden today. But you need to act also. And we made a handful of spin-off projects, which is nice, of course, some opportunity for collaboration, but are we well on our way in completely transforming the way we do business here in Sweden? I don't think we're there yet. We are actually in the middle of a reorganization of SAMS right now to make this more effective, more inclusive, and more fun to work with for the partner companies. So we're rethinking our target a bit right now. For the years to come, a target would be to find the best practice and share it. Share it, of course, within Sams, but also with all the other parts of the food sector in Sweden, because we want our impact to be Sweden as a whole, not just our partner companies. So that's a target right now. What do we measure? Well, we want to use the data right now. We should be able to pinpoint some hotspots, and we should definitely be able to really get this data shared and understood so that you along the value chain understand where is waste happening and how can my company help other companies. And how do we act? Well, we're going from just creating a few spin-off projects to actually have a handful of working committees right now within Sams. And I think this is a great way to take care of the enthusiasm of the people who work within Sams. Because now you have 8 or 9 different working groups on the topic. One is doing a workshop series, one is running dialogues with the value chain, and one is into another research project. So I think this will be very, very valuable. And looking at a Nordic perspective, well, we share a lot of things. I mean, the marketing standards obviously are international. The value chains and the companies, well, they are international as well. So why just look at Sweden? The EU legislation is there. We have to apply to the same laws in many different ways, looking at food safety, for example. And then we are all human. We all waste a little food every day, and we could probably learn a lot by just not reinventing the wheel all the time. So I think as a joint Nordic action, we need to find the best practice and share it. Thank you. And now on for a panel.
You can just stay. I think we're a bit over time, so we just start the... I think I'm on here. Yeah. You can stay with me, Johan, so we just start off the real conversation. But my name is Anne-Marie Schrøder. I'm a head of communication in Matvett. And I've been worked with preventing food waste for now 12 years. It's great to see that we have reached a new level of how the companies are involved, the authorities, and also people in general, and that we see that this is one of the top mentioned issues to tackle when it comes to more sustainable food systems. So, as both you, Anne-Grete, and Johan have stated and established it in your presentation, the 10 principles that we have in a consensus process made with these companies that you showed on the screen, and 3 of them is actually coming up on the stage now, shows that we have to share more information, we have to share more data and cooperate closer in order to not have this overproduction that we've been talking about all day, and also that the sales volumes are correct. And at the same time, we must make it easier for the consumers and get them more involved in how we do this in order to halve the food waste by 2030, which is the main goal. So we want these guidelines not to be just a roadmap. We need to be more like a vital to encourage concrete actions. Lift up best practice and use the opportunity these principles gives to accomplish the collaboration needed. And that's what we want to hand over today in the end of this session also. Can these 10 principles be Nordic principles? We should maybe have them up at the scene again, but these are really important. So to help us discuss these issues, we have Coor Sweden, Ann-Charlott Sjöqvist, Coop Denmark, Louisa Sørensen, or Orkla Foods Norway, Emma Bivstedt. Please join us at the stage, and we will, maybe we should sit in the chairs. If you can sit, yeah. So can you please introduce yourselves briefly, 1 minute each, where you come from, and also how you've been working with food waste, maybe mostly internal, because we're talking more about sharing, cooperating, and the consumers in the session later. Yeah, you start. Yeah, you have the microphone.
Yeah, I can start. So my name is Emma, and I work as a sustainability and brand manager in Orkla Foods Norway. And in Orkla, we have one clear and ambitious goal when it comes to food reduction, and it is to reduce it with 50% within 2025. And to achieve this, we have several projects across the whole value chain ongoing. For example, in the factories, some of the waste that earlier was thrown away is now used as animal foods. And we also do a lot towards consumers, where we have, for example, developed a new communication concept aiming to inspire consumers to eat up the leftovers. So I'm really happy to be here and talk more about this topic.
I'm representing Coor Sweden, and we are like Coor Norway, have business-to-business restaurants, but also business-to-consumer restaurants and cafes. I work with sustainability, and of course, food waste is one of the topics. And we also have the goal of reducing food waste by half by 2025. So we measure and report in every restaurant every day. And I think that's the main thing to achieve a goal. You have to know where you are. And also we are doing, like you showed earlier, on plate size. We try to nudge the consumers, the customers, by portioning instead of buffet serving. And also communicating food waste.
And hi, I'm Louisa from Coop Denmark. I work at our sustainability department with food waste, among other things. And we are also aiming to halving food waste before 2030, but actually we're also aiming for not wasting food at all. And we work with this food waste hierarchy. And the first step is trying to prevent food waste by optimizing systems, gathering data, and stuff like that. And when it comes to our stores, the first step is very simply to do the data checking every day in the stores. And in connection with that, we just did a great test with Y-Waste and had very, very, very great results. And then when we find the products which are close to expire, we sell them at a better price or maybe even too good to go. And the step after that is donation. So we donate surplus food to the organization Stop Spild Lokalt, a Danish organization. And then the last step in our hierarchy is actually circulating food for what is it called? Bio-waste. We're circulating it for
fertilizer? No? Whatever.
Yeah, never mind. But at least that the last step, it's quite an important step because on a weekly basis we actually have recalls of food which is not safe to eat, and that makes this last step very important because then food can be used for biogasification instead and used as the sustainable warming of houses. So, and then we have a lot of initiatives targeted the consumers, but I will get back to that later. Thank you.
Right, thank you for joining this panel. And we have mentioned several times today that you use measurement and data within your business units to understand the problem and to track changes and understand hotspots. But also when it comes to collaboration, you talk about sharing of data, or well, we have not talked so much about sharing of data, but this might be a solution. So my first question would be to Emma. Is it possible or important to share data within the value chain, and what would that help?
So yes, I think, does this work? Oh, but do you hear me anyways? Yeah. I think it's important to start with that food systems are complex. But if we are going to reduce food waste, we need to share more information and we need to cooperate better. And I think it's important to mention that transparency is important in order to improve planning throughout the value chain. And it is the key to avoid overproduction and oversupply. So first of all, I actually will say that yes, if we are going to reduce food waste, it is not only important, it is a must to share more information.
Thank you. And Louisa, from the retail side, how far back could you share this data? What do you share data with your suppliers today?
I think we do a little bit, but it's also not working that much with that. But in the first place, I think we also need to be even better at collecting data, collecting the right data, and also analyzing and understanding the data. And I think we are also willing to share more. And I also think it's about being able to take a joint responsibility and not just take a responsibility as a company, but take a responsibility for the whole supply chain. So that's, also part of it.
Thank you.
But I will also like to add that I'm sure that we can do better and we can share more in the future.
Most likely, yes. So we should cooperate, we should share, but there are competition laws, of course, which you are aware of. Is it some data that you could never share? And this question is for Ann-Charlott.
Well, I think maybe we would never share turnovers, but in food waste, I think we could share everything. And I would like to say that it's very important for us to know the one earlier in the value chain about their food waste. Because mainly I think we are the ones that could prevent some of their food waste, like for our food waste from our main suppliers. If I would get the numbers or the products or the volumes, then I can go back and say, how can we help change? What are we doing wrong when we do the purchase? Is that when your food waste appears? And what can you do about it? And also maybe from the producer as well. So I think SAMS is really, really good at that. We are never talking numbers of food waste in the value chain other than in SAMS.
Can I just say, so you never had that conversation with any of your suppliers?
No.
No. Okay,
Never.
So let's
Clients
start now.
maybe, but never.
Okay.
We will keep on doing this
Yes.
through SAMS and through also for the parties not involved in SAMS to have real impact. I want Emma, would you like to comment on this as well? On how do you talk to these different stages of the supply chain?
So I think the short answer to this is that we can share when it comes to food waste almost everything that not goes as business critical. For example, recipes for our products that can we for sure not share. But I think we can and we need to share much more information about how we work with food waste in the value chain to help each other reducing it. And I think that's also important that you mentioned earlier. We all have signed to it in the 10 principles.
Yes, right. You have signed the 10 principles, so you're on it. I have one last question, and it will be for Louisa to start with. You mentioned that there should be a shared responsibility throughout the value chain, that you should know what is causing, who is responsible for what. And if there is a shared responsibility, will this be a win-win solution, or will there be someone who misses out in the value chain, or is this good for everyone?
I think that question is a little bit difficult, actually. In the first place, I think it is about taking this joint responsibility and then look into it So yeah, I don't obviously see someone who will not benefit for it in the first place, at least.
Let's hope that's the case. Thank you. And we will have some more questions about the consumer part, which I leave to you.
Yes, I'll start. And you will, if you are curious, you can. We have 5 more minutes, so let's talk about the households. Not about the households' food waste, but how they are. The consumers are as as customers, both in the retail chains and also in the canteens and hotels. Because 8 out of 10 say. Okay. 8 out of 10 say they want to make more sustainable choices, but if they have to make sacrifices, then the number lowers to about 50% if it costs them more in terms of prices or less food at the buffet, for instance. So how can we make them more sustainable choices? How can you help them? Do you have any examples of like the must-haves that grocery stores need to have? Can we use? Can we? Sorry. Do you have some concrete examples from working in these areas?
Sure. We have, I think it's a very important question, and it's also an interesting question. Recently, we tested an initiative in some of our stores where we ask the consumers to pick the first product and not the one in the back in order to help us prevent food waste. And actually, it was a surprising success. We were halving and even more than that food waste in the tested categories. So we're actually rolling that out in our shops now. But when it comes to the education of the customers, which you're also pointing to, I think there's a lot of work to do there, and I'm not sure that we have all the answers, but of course it is important to educate the customers about seasons and also another thing is that it's from a retail perspective, it's difficult to have the consumers to pay. They're not, at least based on my experiences, the consumers are not willing to pay the same price for the ugly vegetables and fruits. They expect it at a lower price. And the thing is that it's actually the production and everything, it's the same price. So there's certainly, definitely something there to work on.
I tried to do sum up the 3 questions in one. That's what I started stumbling here. But let's go through the communication. How can communication with the consumer strengthen the understanding and collaboration? And do you have some examples of actions? I know you've done some great things in Norway with Orkla foods. Let's hear from you, Emma.
Yes, we have. So I think communication is an important part of what we are doing. And I can bring up one example on how we currently are working on inspiring consumers to use leftovers that they have in their fridge. It is a campaign that is currently live across whole Norway. And it's our main focus on one of the biggest Orkla brands, Toro. We call the campaign Save the Leftovers with the Toro, and what we actually are doing in this campaign is that we try to tell the consumers how easy it is to use leftovers and how tasty it actually can be by using the power of one of our biggest brands. And that's kind of cool.
Yes, I think we need to find the what's in it for me for the customers to really get a behavior change. So I'd say one of the things we have done to reduce buffet waste was to actually think about how to communicate, and also due to the knowledge that we are talking about, we wrote something about help us prevent us throwing this food away. And it's shocking how they really thought that things that had been out for hours could be reused. We have to throw it away. So we had a discount for half the price, I think. And everyone buy the food. It's half the price for me as a consumer. And wow, did you throw this away all the other days? I didn't know. How come? Why? And that's how we can lift the question and rise the education and really drive the behavior change.
But can we also, the expectations of that you come in the canteen at 5 to 1 and expect the full range of products, or should you be happy just having 1 or 2 alternatives as long as the quality is good? Is that a way of also educate the consumers in that we can't expect full service the whole opening hours? Do you communicate this at all, or is this difficult for you?
This is difficult. Yeah. This is why some people maybe go somewhere else. But I would say if it were the same in every restaurant, always, every day, then they would learn. Yeah,
that's what we want to do. We want to make this more like branch initiatives, so it's easier for you to take these actions.
Yes, and that's why we need to be more.
That's also what those 10 principles is about.
Yes.
I think we have to stop there. It's been really great having you here and sharing your thoughts. And I'm sure that you will read up on those 10 principles and use them, hopefully.
Yes, and I would say number 8, like Anja said before.
Yeah.
More authorities.
Yeah. No, I just want to, we don't have too much time to sum up, but I really feel that there's somehow some willingness, some hope, same need across the country. But I think this is a starting point. We are not there yet, but we also need to get the consumer on board. Of course, as you said, Anne-Marie, that the consumer, they would not take sustainable choices if they need to sacrifice something, or half of them do. So I think we need to find a situation where also the businesses, as you are, tell the consumer that you also make some sacrifices. Because then it's easier to get the consumer to play with you, actually. So not just for the consumer to see that the assortment is reduced, or that you just find milk with 2-3 days left for the shelf life, etc. So, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So yeah. Thank you. Sort of something that we brought on, some action. So we would like to actually not have them here personally.
Yeah, I have prepared this.
We want to hand those principles over to the Council of Nordic Council of Ministries, just to say that this is what we think should be one of the things that you work further with in the Nordic action plan ahead. So this is. From Matvett and Sams and all the companies to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here and contributing. And this has been on our agenda for quite a few years now, and I'm sure we will continue to work on this. As you really want me to keep in the And then I can repeat my gratitude, of course, for all of you being here and contributing for these principles, of course. We in the Nordic Council of Ministers, which is the official body for the Nordic cooperation, we've been working with food loss or food waste for quite a few years. Now we have a committee that is dedicated to this. This is something we are going to work further with. Hopefully not for the next 10 years. Hopefully this will be one of the things we just solve, as we have seen that there are people here that have just solved the problem. Well, maybe we'll meet again in 5 years. 10 years, but hopefully we will reach not only the 37 kilos. It's very nice to say we want to halve the food waste, but when the goal is to throw away 37 kilos per capita, I think we have to think again, no, that's not the goal. That's just the goal 2030. After that, we continue. The goal is to eliminate it. But thank you so much for this. We will take this further and work with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, on time.